The sun had just begun its descent beyond the distant hills when old Nia, with her long silver hair braided down her back, sat by the fire in the center of the village. The children had gathered around her, their faces eager and expectant. In the quiet of the evening, with the faint chirp of crickets in the air and the crackling of the fire, Nia began her story. It was a tale she had inherited from her grandmother, who had inherited it from her own ancestors. She spoke slowly, her voice carrying the weight of wisdom and a deep sadness. Before your time, long before the village of Zaya even existed, there was another place, Mbutu. It wasn't too far from here, just over the ridge that now holds the great baobab tree. Mbutu was a thriving village, full of joy and life, a village built along the banks of the great river Nkwazi. People lived in harmony with the land, and there was a special bond between them and the spirits of the water and the earth. It was said that the river itself was blessed by the gods, flowing with water that healed the sick and provided bountiful fish for all. Nia paused, the firelight flickering in her eyes. The children leaned in, sensing the gravity of what was to come. Mbutu was a village of many clans, but the most respected was the Kanyambo clan. They were the guardians of the sacred river, and their elders kept the secrets of the land, passed down from generation to generation. But like all good things, Mbutu's peace would not last. You see, the river, in its kindness, also carried a great power, one that the people of Mbutu did not fully understand. The village of Mbutu was peaceful, with the daily life revolving around simple things: fishing in the river, farming the fertile lands, and exchanging goods at the marketplace. Young men like Temba, who had just come of age, would join the elders at the sacred shrine to offer prayers, while the women, led by a matriarch named Amina, worked together weaving the finest cloths for trade. Temba was a young man of the Kanyambo clan, strong and clever. His father, an elder named Wabala, had taught him the ways of the river and the ancient songs that kept the village in balance with the land. But Temba had always been restless, seeking more than the quiet life of a farmer or fisherman. One morning, as he walked along the riverbank, he noticed something strange, a set of footprints, deeper and larger than any animals, leading into the thick trees. Curious, he followed them, and they led him to a place he had never seen before, a grove where the trees grew so tall that the sun barely touched the earth. There, in the center of the grove, was a large stone covered in strange symbols, like nothing Temba had ever seen. His heart raced as he touched the stone, and in that instant, the ground trembled beneath his feet. From the shadows of the trees, a voice called out, low and rumbling, "You have awakened me." Nia's voice softened as she spoke the words of the voice. It was a spirit, an ancient guardian of the land, who had once protected Mbutu but had been forgotten over time. Temba, eager to prove his bravery, spoke boldly, "I did not mean to disturb you. I am Temba, a son of Kanyambo. What do you want from us?" The spirit's voice growled in return, "Your village has forgotten its true ways. The river is dying. The land will follow." The children around the fire shivered at the mention of the spirit. Nia continued, her tone growing heavier. Temba hurried back to the village and told his father, Wabala, about the encounter. But Wabala, a wise elder, was not easily shaken. He had heard the elders speak of such spirits, but none had appeared in generations. He warned his son that tampering with the old spirits could bring ruin, but Temba was not one to listen to warnings. He believed that the village could solve its problems if they embraced the spirit's power, so he sought out the stone once again. One fateful day, Temba returned to the grove, this time bringing a group of villagers with him. They came armed with offerings, woven baskets, grain, even a young goat. But when they arrived, they found that the stone was no longer where it had been. Instead, the earth was cracked, and a great chasm had opened in the ground, a deep wound that seemed to swallow the sky. From the depths of the chasm rose a great wind, and a storm began to brew. The air grew heavy, and the earth shook with fury. The spirit of the land, now awakened in full wrath, tore through the village, sweeping away crops, tearing down homes, and uprooting the sacred baobab tree. Temba and the others ran, but it was too late. The river, once a lifeline, began to rise, flooding the fields and the marketplace. In the chaos, many lives were lost, and the village of Mbutu was swallowed by the land, its memory erased by the spirit's wrath. The earth, wounded by the spirit's anger, began to heal over the years, but not without leaving scars. The place where Mbutu once stood is now covered in thick brush, and no one dares to speak its name. The river Nkwazi, once so full of life, has become a shadow of itself, and the fish that once filled its waters have long since disappeared. But in the night, when the wind blows just right, you can still hear the echoes of the storm that took Mbutu, carried on the whispers of the trees. The fire crackled and popped, and Nia's eyes glistened as she finished the story. The children, silent now, seemed lost in thought, as if they could feel the weight of the lost village on their shoulders. Some say the spirits of Mbutu still walk the earth, seeking forgiveness for their people's mistakes. And some say the land will never forget the price of forgetting the old ways. That is why, children, we must always respect the land and the river. We must listen to the stories of our elders, and we must remember that the balance between man and nature is fragile. Nia looked around at the gathered children, her voice steady. Remember this, children, if we do not honor the spirits and the land, we too may one day become like Mbutu, lost and forgotten. The fire flickered one last time before it began to die down, the night air cool and quiet around them. The children slowly stood, their minds filled with the weight of Nia's tale. As they returned to their homes, they walked with an understanding far beyond their years, knowing that the story of Mbutu was not just a warning, but a call to respect the balance of their own world.